This is the Mooncast.
See you, space cowboy.
Right? They pay like 20, 30 euros for it, and then they light fireworks. And they do it every, I think, 3 days a week.
Interesting.
It's a tourist place, man. That's what they do. It's booming, this place, so it really is. Compared to England, fucking hell. It really is booming.
I need to check it out, bro. Like I really.
Oh,
I
you
really
like
need
it.
to
There's loads of Nigerians here. They're like, you guys are 10%.
check it out. Really?
Yeah.
We're out there too.
Yeah, of course you're out here. The first child on New Year's Day was a black child.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said that. It was on the news. So there's loads of them, yeah. They're mainly from Cameroon, Nigeria. I didn't see many from Ghana, to be honest with you. Mind you, if you ask them, you will get a few. But again, I mean, they're very friendly, so you won't have an issue.
I wonder if they do interracial dating there.
You mean, yeah. What you mean with the locals?
Yeah.
There is I've known it. I mean, the locals don't like it
That's a no.
particularly, but I mean, it happens. I've seen it. I mean, but it depends if
Yeah.
sometimes though, the guys don't stick around. The women will, but some of the guys might not. So it depends. You know.
Yeah. I see. Yeah. Bro, man,
I mean,
it's been a long time since the last time we did one of these. How many, is our third one or second one? Or?
Yeah. I mean, this is episode 101 apparently.
Yeah. It's episode 101 for the weekly episodes, but actually I'm gonna push this one a bit forward. I think I'm gonna push it like 2 episodes before, because this is going to be a little bit more recency. It pertains to more like what's going on like with the UK, the markets, and etc. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts about the madness, bro. The UK is I just keep hearing a new story every day, like about craziness going on there, and maybe you could speak a little bit, because last thing I saw was that people are like leaving the military, and they're not their retention rates are getting low.
Well, listen. I mean, the military in the UK, people who the general perception is that the military use you and they spit you out, and then when you're of no use, they literally just discard you, and you basically just treat like a piece of trash. That's just how the military is. They use you when you're young, when you're fit, and as you get older, they don't want to know. If you lose an arm, if you lose a leg, they literally they treat them really bad once they leave. So I think, in terms of the military, I mean, they've got the bad name now, haven't they? Really, people don't really want to sign up to that. I know a few young people who've signed up to that. They're enjoying. To be honest with you, I think it was more like to serve their country type thing. But I mean, whether they're going to be thinking the same thing 10, 15, 20 years down the line, I don't think so. I think they're just going to feel used. But I mean, I guess for some people, they need that discipline. But yeah, I mean, the good thing with the army is they pay you and you have very little expenses, very few expenses. So you're able to save a lot of money in a short amount of time. But it's the psychological aspects of it that people don't look into. So, I mean, you're probably more experienced in that than I am, but I speak to a lot of people. So in terms of the UK and army, they would sign up to that if they have to, or if they want to, really, if they have no choices or other options, or if it's something they believe in. But whether their mindset keeps the same after 20 or 10, 15, 20, 30 years, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that the UK was starting to recruit Africans from like their former colonies to call on them because they're having a shortage of recruits from the UK. So I found that super interesting. I was like, wait, this sounds like a little bit too familiar. Except last time they just like stole Africans from their colonies to force them to do it, but now they're giving them the incentive of like
I mean,
wanting
listen,
them.
I've not heard anything like that, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
The UK is a multicultural country, so if somebody of African descent, born in the UK or who lives in the UK, wants to enroll for the army, I mean, he's more than willing to do that. I don't think anybody will stop him.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know that they're because I saw that they did unleash like an ad about it. I think they also they strategically put like Africans on their website, like an African
Yeah,
face on their website,
yeah, yeah. They
and
do that. Yes. So they put basically all the minorities. So whenever
yeah,
there's like yeah, they do. Yeah, it's like if you see like a poster promoting the NHS or whatever, they will put all the minorities there. But it is what it is. I mean, I'm used to that. If you see a kid's book, it's like it's the same. You know, children's books are the same.
yeah.
I can't
It's
really
quite.
comment on this. It's just the way it is.
It's just interesting for me, man, because you know if you understood like you know the past history and everything, so it's pretty funny. But I understand why an African would do it or a minority would do it is out of it's just economic incentives, right? At the end of the day, it's due to lack of opportunity and etc. And they feel also it's a way to where they could get immigrated into the UK. I just don't agree with it because I know so about the dark colonial past and things that happened in World War One and Two. So let's shift the focus then to the UK economy. And yeah, bro, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Like, go ahead, tell me what you think. The crime rates are up.
Well,
Debt to GDP
listen.
ratios are bad.
Is the crime rates are primarily linked to they're linked to unemployment. So what's happened is the current prime minister, what he's done, he's increased the social insurance that employers have to pay, and by doing so, he's actually what he's done is he's made it more difficult for people to get employed. So nobody's employing people, right? Well, they are, but they're not. There's been a reduction in employment. So as there's a reduction in employment, people don't have jobs, and they're turning to crime. Obviously, it just came out on the news a few weeks ago that I think 52% of the population are claiming some form of benefits. 50, we're talking
Wow.
over 50%, and this isn't going to get better. And I'm going to tell you exactly why it's not going to get better, because what's happened is not only have they done that, but the people that feed us, which is basically the farmers, they have introduced a tax on them. So now it's even more difficult for them to pass the farms to their children to continue the industry they're doing. So, in actual fact, by doing that, I mean, I speak to a lot of farmers and they've told me this. They said in 10 to 15 years, there's not going to be any British agriculture. They're just going to have to import everything from anywhere else. But the problem with that is once you're reliant on foreign imports, they can dictate the price, they can dictate the quality, and you have no real power within your country. So the whole point, listen, the whole point of Brexit was to bring power back to the country. But what's actually happened is they're pushing power away from the UK, and they're just I don't know what their plan is. I mean, they've increased um, national insurance contributions. They've increased the taxes on farmers. So, in other words, they can't easily pass it down to their children to continue the trade. They've cut the winter fuel allowance for old pensioners. So now they're suffering. Energy and gas has gone up. Taxes has gone up for the very rich. If you look on the internet, you do a Google search, you'll see that more millionaires are leaving the UK than ever before. Like I think it's the first place they're all going. They're all leaving the UK. So it's not looking great. I mean, it really isn't. And to be honest with you, I've been speaking to a lot of people, and they estimate that it's going to be 12 years before things turn around.
How do they envision things turning around? How does that look like?
Well, firstly, the guy in charge has to go. It's like competition, man. When you increase taxes, you're not going to do better because you've increased taxes. In fact, what you're going to do is worse because people now have options. We're not shackled to a specific country. We can just say, well, you know what? So and so, you pay less tax, so I'll just move my assets there, or I'll sell my assets and move over there. So people, they're not, especially the ones with money, they're not restricted to a location. They can just move. So I think that's the problem, because it's not, in a way, they're not making it beneficial for people with money to stay there. They're moving all their assets out. So I don't know. I mean, they have to make it interesting for investors, and I think the first thing to do is to lower taxes. If not in all sectors, in a specific sector that's going to be an emerging industry, that would help. But yeah.
I told you that $10 could change your life. At Helicode Academy, we're making it happen. For a limited time only, you can take courses like cybersecurity, technical writing, Web3 marketing, just for $10. We listened to hundreds of you, and your feedback inspired us to give you this huge discount. We know how life-changing these skills are, and now there's no excuse not to level up in tech. The clock is ticking. Don't miss your chance to master a high-level skill for the cost of your next meal. $10, new skills, endless opportunities. Start today at Helicode, and as always, see you, Space Cowboy.
Yeah.
The thing I think about when you say lower taxes is because I look at their debt to GDP ratio. It's not that great either, like most Western countries too as well. So in my head, I'm like, well, they need part of the taxes to slow the money printing down, because they have to subsidize anyways the amount that the taxes aren't paying for to pay back the interest and pay back the defense budget and the public goods and services and etc. And that's only accelerating in terms of the debt to GDP ratio. So I'm wondering, how would they be able to pay for all those things that I've mentioned without printing more money, which would cause them more inflation? So what solutions do you see in terms of that? And also, you look at the population size is decreasing. The only reason that they're able to sustain it is because the immigration is coming in. But illegal or legal, you have skilled and unskilled laborers that are coming in. So how do you see 12 years from now how that could get turned around based off of these current economic conditions and climate? Do you think the population is going to get back to where it was before? So how do you?
No, I mean, listen, they know that the British white population won't increase. They know this. So what they're doing is they're bringing in, or basically increasing immigration. Now, recently they brought somewhat the wrong kind of immigrants. So the ones who are coming from war-torn countries, but they're not coming to work. They just come in for safety in a way. And a lot of them are staying in hotels. So, I mean, I don't know, how is it going to turn around? I think if for whatever's happening now to turn around, they would have to manage the country in a better way. They would have to stop thinking short term and start thinking long term. So every single president or prime minister, we have prime ministers, sorry, they all think short term. So they'll fix a problem, knowing well that in 2-3 years time they'll have to fix it again. Everything is very short term. They don't focus on the long term. They don't say, right, well, I'll build it once and it will last. So I think, if you notice, most of the houses in the UK, the ones that people are living in, they're over 100. So taking that into account, what have we done in the last 20 years that's actually lasted in the UK? And you're going to say, well, actually, everything that was built 20 years ago needs replacing. And this is somewhat the problem. We've done a railway system which just hemorrhages money. How is it going to turn around? To be honest with you, it's far easier to start fresh. That's why you see countries like possibly Dubai, or where even in Africa, where they're able to start fresh on a level playing field. They're able to do a better infrastructure from fresh than to actually fix an old infrastructure. I don't know. I think they have to increase the local population, make them want to work, incentivize them to work, and yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of people in the UK not working, and I think the answer to them not working and to balance the books is to bring people from other countries to hopefully do the job that they're not doing. But I just think it's better to incentivize the people that you've already got to work.
Yeah,
That would be my call.
yeah, yeah. Because increasing the local population would be quite hard. Like, especially because there's a lot of, if you look at for instance, like the 4B movement, and there's not an incentive also economically to have and raise a family there, because it's quite stressful, to have just even just one kid with a wife as an addition too as well. Are y'all both going to be working? And then what if you have a second kid? It's quite difficult. Then you have to take on debt usually to then afford the house, because all the houses, you're kind of all priced out. So, and also you explained something about the import export deficit. So I'm curious, with what do you have any? I know you probably don't have numbers right in front of you, but how is it when it comes to importing and exporting food currently right now? And what is the percentage of irritable land that's in the UK? Because it is an island, so I'm wondering how much of the land is actually even irritable.
I mean, to be fair, a lot of it is. The UK could be self-sustaining quite easily. There's not a problem with that. It doesn't really need any other country really to keep itself going. We have everything. The only issue is if government are taxing the people growing the food or the people farming, and they're making it more difficult for for the locals to help keep the system going, prices are going to go up. And I think the biggest reason prices increase in the UK has to do with the rising cost of energy and gas. So, electricity, gas, that was kind of a stealth tax because everything's based on that. If you increase electricity, gas, and petrol, that's it. Everything goes up.
Yeah,
And it's not a benefit that you're going to see. It's not like an increase in minimum wage where everybody gets an increase and then prices go up and it's somewhat an equilibrium. Minimum wages don't increase when gas and electric go up. So that's kind of what happened. They're not focusing on renewable energies at the moment. There's been a lot of talk about that, about potential wind farms. There's actually a company that deals with salt caverns. So what they basically do, they find these salt caverns in the ground, and they pressurize air in it, and they have this mechanism where they release the air, and it would power. I think it's up to 100 miles from that area to give them electricity. I don't know how it works, but you can do your research on it. It's called Store Electric, and that's what they do. So, but it costs about 250 to 300 million to build a plant. That's their main downfall, really. It's the funding. But if you were to fund something sustainable, whereby you're able to reduce the energy costs for people, I think that will be a winner.
yeah. I saw, like, I think it was Singapore, that they take their garbage and put it through like an incinerator that then generates energy for
That's
poor people.
brilliant.
Yeah, and it's only, I think it was only like $10 million.
Do you
So
know? I mean, it's things like that that are going to help a country. But what the sad truth is, what they're doing now, majority of countries, when they say recycle, they don't actually recycle it. They just burn it. That's what they do.
yeah,
There's no,
and
yeah, sorry.
no, I was just curious because I assumed that specifically, especially in the West, that they were not burning, that they were actually having some kind of vehicle to bring that energy, to use that energy to redistribute it back into the economy somehow, either through like energy source or something. But you're telling me that they just burn it and that's it.
Dude, they just burn it. They just burn it. The thing is they don't have the infrastructure to manage this kind of waste. It's just cheaper for them to burn it. I mean, I don't know if you've seen documentaries, but the, when you throw stuff away, it could end up in China. It could end up in the Far East, and that's what they're doing. There's a trade now for trash, but ultimately, nobody really wants to take responsibility. In the old days, they used to sell the trash and they used to take it to Ireland and dump it there. But now I think they just burn it. I think burning it is better than actually storing it somewhere else. You know, if it burns and it goes, I know it's not great for the environment, but at least it's not there. But at the same time, I mean, I've seen countries in Central Europe where they have filtration systems on the end of power plants, whereby there's no emission, there's no negative effects to the environment. You could burn all your trash and there'll be no negative effects. So
How?
yeah, they have these filter systems on the top of on the top of the units. I don't know quite how they do it, but I've seen it. I've seen it whereby they burn everything and there's nothing given to the environment. They have filters on the vents going out, filters on top of filters on top of filters, and in the end, you know, there's nothing. There's literally no harm to the outside atmosphere.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is ways and capabilities to do that, and also even just that they produce they have biodegradable materials and stuff like that that they could use for instance, like plastics. Then we drink waters and different juices and etc. We can make it biodegradable, so that way we can toss it on the floor and then it
Sure,
incinerates,
sure.
right?
I mean, but that listen, but that in itself is a scam because a lot of these products they're actually bought from China.
Oh,
So
really?
they have, yeah, so they have to come all the way from China. So I give you an example of that. There's these biodegradable trays that you have in the UK, and they're built with, I don't know what they're built with. They say they're built with like corn sugar or something, sugar cane, corn sugar, something like that. But the actual materials used to make them are imported from China.
Hmm.
So, you know, and on the end of the day, they don't just biodegrade over two months or 3 months. These things might take 5, 10, 12, 13 years to completely degrade. So it's not even an instant process.
I see. So yeah, I think the best way then would probably to try to come up with some kind of recyclable measurement, some kind of system that brings the trash in, and then like the Singapore example that I mentioned earlier, it would make a lot more sense. Did you think consumerism itself was like a net positive or a net negative for society overall?
Listen, it's good for business. Consumerism always helps profits, but I think in terms of society, I think yeah, it's a bad thing. Nobody needs a new phone every 2 years. Nobody needs a new computer every 4 years. You know, it's like, I mean, from the moment you buy a phone, especially in the UK on contract, they make it so every 2 years you're incentivized to buy another phone. They make the batteries last so long, which is fair enough, but then they make the cost to replace the battery so high that you may as well just get a new phone. And I think
Yeah,
it's just this throwaway society. On the end of the day, a 5-year-old phone does exactly the same what a phone does today, right?
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so really it should be lasting 10 years.
Yeah. Do you think part of the UK, and I would even lump a lot of the West? Do you think part of the problem is the inability to live within one's means?
Well, I mean they're getting that. That's becoming a reality now because people are wising up to that. They're realizing they can't just spend endlessly. So that in itself is is something that they need to wise up on. So yeah, I mean they've run out of money basically, effectively. There's no money now. And because there's no money, they have to live within their means. Whereas in the
Yeah.
past, they could live on a potential loan and hoping that loan would come through and then they will pay it off. But you can't do that anymore, not in the UK. It's just not possible. It's like now you think twice before you spend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope that things do turn around.
No,
Like
no, they
I know
won't.
that because I see it also. There's also a huge, like you said, the migration of what's happening is what, again. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears that there's an influx of low quality, unskilled immigrants and an outflux of highly talented, skilled professionals that are leaving
Pretty
simultaneously.
much,
Is it?
pretty much. You're effectively swapping skilled for unskilled. But the problem is, yeah, that's what's happening. So anybody with, and the thing is, people are incentivized to leave. I mean, if you look at, I know a surgeon. He's a plastic surgeon, and he earns in the UK. He earns about £55,000 after tax. And he told me that if he was to do the same job in Australia, he'll be earning 1.4 million.
Oh wow.
I mean, he's mad. He stays in the UK, but there's a lot of people that once they get their degrees, they just leave. And Australia will take them in like that. If you're earning
Well,
1.4 or £1 million in Australia, then what the hell?
is Australia? I know they also have demographic issues too. I think like isn't it upwards of like 1 million are like dying from skin cancer? I think something like that.
I mean, listen, I've got relatives there. They've not told me they're dying from skin cancer, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I
Maybe
mean,
this.
to be fair, I think they've got it right when it comes to immigration policy because they make sure that the people who come in are skilled work for what they need. And it is very difficult for an older person to live in Australia because if you're too old, you need to provide some form of a security bond to cover your health bills. So it's not like you can go and sponge off the government because it's not going to work. You need certain years have to pass before you're fully made an Australian. So I think they've got it right. I think the UK probably has it wrong because we're just letting anybody in at the moment, and I don't
Yeah.
think that's helping. If they were working, it's fine, but a lot of them they're not. Especially the ones in the past worked. I mean, I know somebody. Again, I'm not going to name names or situations where she's at, but this person is claiming she originally came from Eastern Europe and she came in England and she's got two children and she's claiming disability for one of the child and she's not working and she's divorced. And I calculated that based on the housing support that she has, she's estimated to receive £3,200 to £3,500 from the government per month.
Man,
And
that's
yeah, so
crazy.
that's nuts. I mean, there's people out there in England who are working 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, and they're not earning that.
Yeah,
And
that's
she's earning
insane.
that. Yeah, that's insane. And she's earning that doing nothing. And I think this is the problem. I mean, when you incentivize people not to work, why should I work when I can just get it for free? And that's the issue. Once people come to the UK and they see that they can manipulate that system, they will just do exactly the same. And then you're no better off. This is a problem.
Well,
There's not much of an incentive for people to work anymore.
Imagine 10xing your earnings capacity to 100K per year while working remotely at the comfort of your own home. We are in the exponential growth phase of technological advancements. That means AI, AR, VR, robotics, and of course, Web3 technologies taking over the job market. At HeliCode Academy, we train students on Web3 hard skills and link them to employment in the job market. Find out more at helicode.xyz. And as always, see you, Space Cowboy.
well, what is work anyway? Like, why well, this current work paradigm that we're in, because this wasn't how we always used to work. So I'm wondering, is it that the current paradigm that we're in of work is not conducive to the change in the economic conditions and climates? Should we change the way in which we think and approach work? Should work be what it is currently right now, where you're working more than you're actually spending time with your relationships?
I mean, fundamentally, you're meant to enjoy it. You're supposed to enjoy work. But I think ultimately people don't. I don't know what's happened in the last 30, 40 years, but, we've ended up becoming wage slaves, really. And a job used to provide a better living, but if it's not providing that, then what's its purpose? To survive? And when you look
Yeah.
at house prices of the way they've gone and the cost of living, how expensive things are, and people are barely surviving, then they're working just to barely live. And I think this is the problem you see. So really, anybody could enjoy any job if they're around the right people and they work how they want to work and how they feel comfortable working. But I think the problem is working life now has become so demanding that you can't actually enjoy it like you're supposed to, because it's just, I mean, there's people out there that are working 11 hours a day, man. I mean, there's nurses, there's doctors that are doing 15-hour shifts. I mean, how on earth can that be enjoyable? Do you think somebody who studied to be a doctor or studied to be a nurse said to himself, right, I'm studying to be a nurse so I could work 15, 16-hour shifts
Yeah.
and then get taxed on half of it? I mean, this is
That's
it.
the part.
you know, yeah. I mean, this is the problem. I mean, it's literally that's what's happening. I know a doctor who within 2 days she might sleep 2 hours. I mean,
Wow.
if you're a doctor and you're supposed to care about the body and the health of people and the health of yourself, why would you subject yourself to that? But the thing is, the medical profession, it's so demanding and there isn't enough people doing it that, I think there just needs to be a restructure of what actual work is, so people do go to work enjoying to go to work rather than going to work and just suffering like they are doing.
Yeah, I totally agree too as well. And I'm just wondering, do you think that's why a lot of the Zoomers, the Gen Z, they feel less incentivized to work? And how do we help to protect them moving forward? And how do we motivate them to work? Because it almost seems like they're
Listen,
just giving up. And
a lot of them are brain dead. I mean, in all honesty, they've been subjected to God knows what on social media. A lot of them, they have no interest. To them, work is not something that you will do to enjoy. You wouldn't get into a job because you want to do it. It's just a concept for a lot of them. You do it barely for the money basically, and that's it. They don't do something because they enjoy it. They have no passion, no drive. A lot of these younger kids, I mean, I have to touch up. I've trained over 500 to 600 kids, um, young adults, so I know a lot of them. They're very good at following instructions. They'll do what you tell them, but they have no real interest in what they're doing, and I think that's the problem.
do, so, do you think that the trend will just continue, like with Gen Alpha? Do you think that they're going to be even worse? What do you think that we have to take on some of that responsibility as a bit of an older cohort to help the young generation in a way, or try to build businesses, or educate
I,
them,
I
or
listen. I think AI is going to screw them over. I think AI is just going to end them, like a lot of these people. I just think if there's no need to have staff and to get employment of the younger generation, they're just going to be replaced by AI bots that could do it. So I don't know, man. I think the future for them isn't particularly great. Yeah, I see it now. I see a lot of job roles being replaced by AI, and there's a lot more positions that you're just basically an AI prompter, and you know how to use the tools that are out there. So I think, yeah, I think that's going to be a growing job. If they can use AI, that's going to be great. But I think if they can't use AI and they don't have the skills. And another thing I've noticed between the younger generation is a lot of them surprisingly don't actually have computers.
Mm.
They that you don't believe me, do you?
No, no. Actually, when I think about it now, you're right. A lot of them either don't have them or they don't use them often. They're usually just on their
They
phone.
they're just on their phones. I know of people who have done their coursework, their assignments on their phones. So they've not even used a computer.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
they
what is the
literally,
point of a computer anymore?
I don't know, man. It's just a whole experience, right? I mean, you've got a big screen. You have your tabs. You can multitask. You can perform things on Photoshop, on Illustrator, on various Adobe products. I think it's the whole experience. I don't think you can do that on a phone. You-
I mean, they are
Obviously,
though. I mean, I'll tell you firsthand. Like my girl, she video edits and does all that stuff on her phone, like on her phone. It's crazy, and she's really good. I mean, you've seen some of my shorts. She does
oh
them.
sure, yeah,
Yeah. So, and she's Gen Z. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's interesting, man. Yeah. I mean, it's sad because, looking at the landscape of the robots and AI and how it affects economies, do you think that they're, in their thought process, I mean, the overlords or whoever you want to call they, um, do you think that they are looking at it like, well, we don't really need humans anyways in like 10 to 15 years when the robots mature, synergize with the artificial intelligence?
Dude, I think a majority of the people in control of the world now, I think a lot of them are so old that they won't be here to see that. And I think the younger generation, if somebody's 80 years old and he's friggin' 90 years old and he's one of these big oligarchs, I really don't think he plans too much of the future. But the new millionaires now, the new billionaires, should I say, like Elon, like, even the Amazon guy is relatively young for his net worth. They don't think like the very, very older generation. They're more for the people, Even though it doesn't sound like it, they are more for the people than they're not like the Wall Street sharks, if you will. So
Hmm.
I don't
I'm
see
skeptical.
that. You're skeptical.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm skeptical, man. I mean, because I just see, you could say that, but I watch what people do, and not what they say. And from what they do, it appears that they're just like everybody else, but maybe they just use that as a marketing vehicle or trust vehicle to say like, oh no, we're not like them. But when I look at the products you launch, like Amazon, what is Amazon? It's a promotion for consumerism, right? I mean, and as we all
well,
know, consumerism
Amazon's a
is.
very. Listen. The reason I buy from Amazon is I buy something, I use it, right? If I'm happy with it, I keep it. If I'm not happy with it, I package it back, I send it to the post office, and then it goes back, and I don't get any stress for it. I don't get any hassle. Now, if I was to go in the UK and buy something and try and send it back, they're going to start to open the package. They're going to say, what's wrong with it? They're going to say, you've used it. They're going to try and give me some crummy voucher, which I don't want. And then in the end of it, after all that stress, I'm going to come home feeling like dirt and I'm going to say, I'm not going there again. So I think the whole reason Amazon has got so popular is because of just the process of buying and returning stuff. And these guys,
Mm,
when you return something, they just sell it off as a loot box. They just bundle it as a big package and off it goes. So I think that's why it's one. Its pricing is competitive. It's pretty good. The returns process is incredibly simple. The refund. I've had a refund on a return on Amazon in less than an hour. and that's just nuts.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah,
that's yeah, go on.
yeah. You're right. I think that's what separates them a lot, and that's why they're market leaders, right?
Yeah, I mean that's it. I mean the stuff, if something's £2 or £3 cheaper on eBay, I'm still going to use Amazon because of the whole
Yeah,
returns process if something's wrong. So
yeah,
again, am I right to want to return something that I bought? Well, if I'm not going to use it and it doesn't do what I say, then, or it wasn't what I thought, then I think I should be able to. And I think that's just the whole idea where you buy something online, just the returns process is a lot easier. So for
yeah,
me, Amazon was a winner basically because they focused on the consumer. You see, when you have a business, you have a number of elements. You've got the customer, you've got the business, and you've got your associates. In other words, the people who provide you the stock for Amazon, the business is them, and your customer. Now, unfortunately, you can't look after all three. You just can't. Because if they look after the business too much, they're going to put their pricing up. They're going to increase their fees, right? That means that the customer's going to suffer. Out of them three, one of them has to suffer. And I think looking at the way Amazon works, I think it's the people who sell the products that don't make as much as they should be making. And that's what keeps the whole system going. Because
yeah,
if they were to if you were to sell something in a store, they would want more money for that. And that's the difference. So because it's Amazon, they take less, but because they take less, the price is favorable to the customer and it keeps Amazon in the business. So I think that's why that's winning, um, as opposed to, but if you look at 30, 40 years ago, how the banking sector worked, the whole point of banks was to help people buy houses, to help people buy what they want and pay it back later. Now, do you believe, I'm going to flip this on the switch here and ask you a question. Do you believe the banking sector has helped humanity and helped people long term?
no, absolutely not.
Well, so if you have a look at it from that angle, if their goal, do you believe the mechanism to borrow money from the banks has increased house prices?
Yeah, it's increased house prices, and it's made people effectively tapped out of the housing market entirely.
Right. So if a bank was tomorrow to say, right, there are no more mortgages, you have to basically buy your house outright, and there's no form of borrowing to buy this house, how much do you think a house will drop in value? What would be its fair value after that
90
declaration?
percent, 90%.
90%. So a house
Yeah,
price. So are you trying to tell me that we're living and paying for houses that are worth 90% basically more than they should be worth?
yes,
Yeah, because banks have helped us buy these houses.
correct.
So if you look at the long-term effects of how the banking sector works, then you would see it's a net negative, right? Whereas if you look at how businesses like Amazon and eBay and all these internet businesses work, they work for the consumer. But I just don't think that in the financial world, you see, the millionaires now, the billionaires now, should I say, are the ones in the tech industry, right? And they
Yeah.
are empowering people. Okay. They are empowering us. Whereas 20, 30 years ago, the billionaires then, I don't think they were empowering people.
Hmm. 20 years ago, I mean, it depends on the
30.
angle you look at. Okay, 30 years ago, that's different because that's then right before the internet boom. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would agree for the most part, man. I would agree for the most part.
Stay tuned for part 2, and as always, see you, Space Cowboy.